my report, and mostly what I went to the GLC for was to get more knowledge on how to deal with volunteers in a different manner. I come from a cooking background, and everything's very militant, and it's, you know, you can't treat hippies like that because they're kind of resistant to that kind of behavior. So, you know, my focus was on, you know, seeing people in different manners and dealing with situations differently. And so basically most of the stuff I went towards was like helping, you know, helping other people and helping, you know, with the volunteers and showing people different ways of doing it. So some of the things were to, you know, when you guys are all leading groups of volunteers, you know, you want to make it seem fun for everybody, and, you know, keep everybody engaged, and you know, make volunteering feel like a fun thing to do and not a chore to do. You know, give it a reason to, you know, to be fun and keep people's spirits happy, and, you know, because we're all doing this on a volunteer basis, and we're doing it for, you know, our enjoyment. So you should enjoy it. I mean, you see lots of departments that you know, take stuff really seriously, and you know, if you let go of that and don't take it quite as seriously, you know, you're going to have a better time, and you're going to have more productive workers, and those workers are going to want to come back year after year. And that's how departments get people to come back, is that, you know, people pay attention to what their workers are doing, and, you know, what helps them learn to do, you know, things that you want them to do, because not everybody thinks like you, which I find out often with my wife. That I don't think like her, she doesn't think like me, and, you know, we come to, you know, different conclusions, or maybe sometimes the same conclusion in a completely different manner. When you're trying to get people to volunteer, you know, in the past at APA, we've done stuff like, you know, kind of hippie shaming and saying, you know, oh, if you don't volunteer, you know, you're just not doing your part, and blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. And that's, you know, it's kind of proven now that kind of, you know, manipulative behavior and you know, forcing people to do stuff like that doesn't necessarily work as well as, you know, as making it seem like an exclusive thing, like you're doing something, you know, this department's really cool and you want to be in that department. So make it look appealing to, you know, the people that you're trying to draw in, that you're trying to recruit. You know, keep people excited about what you're doing. And if you keep people excited about what you're doing, they're going to be excited about the job, and they're going to want to sign up for shifts. You know, and even shifts that suck, like Nolan's and mine. Because parking is not really very fun. But, you know, if you keep it positive and you keep yourself positive, and, you know, do special things for your people, it definitely will. You'll get more out of them as volunteers, and people will want to be recruited into your department, because it'll be a good thing to do. When you're volunteering, everybody does this, which I'm classic at doing. Overcommitting it burns you out so fast that it makes you not want to do it the next year. And in order to keep, you know, yourself as a volunteer, you know, you want to make sure you're working within your body's means and your mind's means. And once you start to overcommit, you start to lessen what your abilities are and how much you're giving to that department and whatever department you're working in next. And it takes a focus away a little bit from what your end goal is. Maybe you just like to work a lot, which is fine. But, you know, don't make it stressful work, make it happy work. So my next section is you know, volunteering is your gift to the community. So you shouldn't feel obligated to necessarily give gifts or whatever, because if you're putting, you know, 40 hours for the year in on your Apogaea thing, that's a pretty big gift that you're already giving. And volunteering is one of the biggest gifts that you can give. And I think that people, when they see you volunteer, are so happy to see you volunteering, no matter what it's for. And they're going to come up and try and give you a big hug. And, you know, there's people that don't like that, like DPW people generally don't want you to hug them. People at Gate are probably not going to want you to hug them. But, you know, I mean, there's other people that are going to be, yeah, the greeters will be stupidly happy to have you come up and hug them.
I think the people at Gate are going to want you to motorboat them.
People at Gate are possibly, no, not
so.
a gate.
I have a sneaky suspicion
I think
that
so.
might be the case. Yeah.
Well, if you're working gate, I guess.
I guess.
Yes.
Agreed on having everybody.
I'm motorboating everybody.
To build your volunteer base, you know, if you're running a department like Nolan runs year after year, throughout the year, you're going to have the same people that want to work in your department, and try and keep in contact with those people and talk to them, and you know, say, hey, how you doing? You know, you know, have any new ideas for next year, and any new, you know, can we learn something new, or do you have something new? You know, keep in touch throughout the year, and that makes them feel, you know, more part of your department, and willing to, you know, do more for you, and they're going to tell the people that, you know, are thinking, oh, well, I'm thinking about going to, you know, work at info booth or whatever, you know, their friend's going to be like, well, parking's really cool, you know, we've had a really good time, and, you know, my buddy Nolan, he calls me a couple times a year, and, you know, we have a pretty good crew of people, and that's how you start to slowly build those, you know, over the years, you know, the same people. And if you have the same people, you don't have to disseminate more information to new people every time, and shift changes become easier, and, you know, stuff comes together a lot easier. Okay, another thing is to, you know, have your people document what they're doing, and, you know, maybe do a little log at the end of their shift, so, you know, that not only do they have the verbal transfer from one shift to another, but they also have documented, you know, whether it be a couple sentences. You know, we had two guys that walked up and no tickets and wanted to buy tickets, so we had to send them away. You know, that's all you have to write. It's really super simple, and if you're a volunteer, you know, be sure you know the job, and if somebody asks you a question, be able to answer their question confidently, because, you know, you're a lead, so you're not going to be fielding those questions. Your people are going to be fielding those questions. You know, and when you think about how you did things in the past or whatever, whether, you know, it was just being a peon in another department, now you're the person that's not taking any of those direct questions. You're not sitting at the gate table, you know, giving out tickets. You're not parking cars. You're doing the administrative part, and you're trying to watch over everybody, make sure everybody's happy and everybody's content with what they're doing. So, you know, you just have to look at it in a different manner than you were looking at it before, maybe. Does anybody have any questions about the GLC? About any of?
I actually have a question about your material.
Oh, yeah.
You were talking about how you want to try to recruit volunteers that become leads that stay and stay and stay.
Yeah.
My question is, how do you avoid becoming a clique? Because, you know, oh, those are info booth people. Only they hang out with info booth people. Because I got a couple of questions about ass, like, where do the ass people camp? Well, nowhere specific. They can camp wherever they want.
Well, I don't know if you've been to Burning Man, but that's kind of, unfortunately, departments are cliquey, and that is an unfortunate side effect of being a departmental, you know, company as we are. I mean,
it just, I hate how it feels unburnered.
Then you
know?
as a lead, if you hear people saying stuff like that, need to say, hey, you know, everybody's equal here. You know, let's all, you know, get along in the same manner, or be kind to each other. You know, but most burners, they don't seem that way all the time. On the internet, it's different, but
I was thinking specifically of DPW at Burning Man. Like, you are DPW, and that is the main...
They do their own thing, and they've separated themselves from the herd.
It depends on the department. Because, like, this year and years past, like, BAMF and Rangers, they have their own camping spot, only because we have so many that come from other states, and they don't have really a camp to camp with. So, and like info booth, I mean, we are all scattered. Most departments are. DPW, I think, is one of the few that stays together. So, because you're not, where are you camping? You're not camping.
I camp with my own camp.
Yeah,
I camp
so-
every year. So.
Yeah, I don't think it's very cliquey.
I don't feel like it is now. I just worry about that in the future.
As we get larger, you're worried that will
I
become
think
the
I
case.
can handle by leading that way,
Yeah.
by volunteering. You know, you run this one, but you volunteer over here. And that would
I
encourage
mean, yeah,
other people to do the same.
I'm his XXO, but I'm also a daily lead for Gate, so it's not like, I mean, there's a lot of cross-contamination.
And I love that. That's exactly the sort of
pollination.
behavior from
No, I'm not contaminated.
Well, I could see that is the challenge of being a leader in the sense of it's a double-edged sword where you want to create an environment of camaraderie. Like, hell yeah, we're Banff. You know, hell yeah, we're Rangers. Like, we kick ass. But at the same time, yeah, it's that fine balance between this is camaraderie and now we become cliquey. You know, whereas like that becomes all the
You're
catty
taking
bullshit.
the job into your daily life is what seems to happen in those kind of situations, and you know, you just have to make sure your people leave it at the door, and when it's over, you're just another participant again, and go and be another participant again, because I mean, I think a lot of people do sometimes get lost in that kind of thing, and they can't be a participant. They
I
can
want to
only
say something.
be.
I honestly, I may be playing devil's advocate here, but I equate clickiness with burnerliness. I mean, this is a tribal festival, and what we do out there is we organically form and attach ourselves to tribes where we feel welcome, and I think that's a really big part of what the festival is all about, or about kind of any burn festival in you know, where you have to rely on that, because I mean, you have your campmates, and then you have this larger crew that's not just your immediate camp that you're also doing something with, you know, the art project you're working on or whatever, and that's your larger crew, and then, you know, you get past that. But it wouldn't happen if it weren't for those individual cultures that happen on, you know, each project has its own culture, and each department does as well. And honestly, I would like to see, you had mentioned the cross-pollination, and I think that's great, but if we keep doing that, that's how people get burned out. You know what I mean? Like, look at Pi and Veronica. I mean, they contribute, I would say, more to Apogaea than almost anybody I know. But I know that there's also, like yourself, John, you know, you're heading department and doing, and like, you know, you're doing all this stuff. You're not just one thing. You know, I'd really like to see people maybe doing less so we get less burnout, because it seems that was a lot of,
You know,
caused
and
a lot
the
of
only
problems
way
this
the only
year.
way we can do that is to build up our volunteer base, and you know, that's the only way we can do that. Because if I didn't do the things that I do, then not necessarily would those departments get filled.
So just to give some, like, my understanding, and this could be totally wrong, but my understanding is that there was supposed to be a volunteer database this year based off of last year that allowed those volunteers to have an early ticket sale, but
Yeah,
there's a
there is.
glitch in that, but that will be in place by next year.
Yeah,
So
we
because
can
of
fix
that,
it.
I think that will incentivize volunteers a lot more than it has in the past.
Yeah, and I think that's the starting of our base, and eventually we can be at that point.
And I keep going back to like what you're saying is like cliquey is such a negative connotation to it, whereas like I keep going like, well, it sounds like we're just talking about camaraderie, and it takes the individual person and their perception of it to whether they want to be kind of a d-bag about the whole thing. Then you become a clique, if you will. But you know, and it doesn't. I just came up with a thought that I know that when I volunteer Banff, and granted it's different for different volunteering sectors, because a lot of people don't get to walk around like Banff. You know, I love rolling up to other people and be like, "What's up? You guys working in info booth?" Like, "Yeah, we're Banff." You know, reaching out and just saying hello. You know, a lot of times it's just kind of a pat on the back for like, "Thanks for volunteering. I'm doing the same thing." But I don't know. I think I have a blast doing it, but it's just, I don't know.
And that's what I want to engender in specifically ask volunteers, because I have done parking before.
Yeah.
So what I'm taking from this discussion, which is by the way awesome and I love it, is definitely tribes. I totally get it. It makes sense. We all have our groups, but so long as it doesn't like prevent us from welcoming other people into that group, I guess that's the point when it becomes not okay.
Oh, well, yeah, that's
Like,
Yeah, well, there's
you're
nothing.
not
I don't
as-
think there's anything exclusive about it.
Yeah,
You know
no,
what I
no,
mean?
no,
But it's like,
absolutely
you know,
shouldn't.
I choose to align myself with these people because I like what they do and I like their attitude.
that's
Yeah.
exactly
You
right.
know,
Totally.
These are our
you find a
family
different
of our
attitude in DPW than you're going to find at greeters. I mean,
Oh, yes.
that's just what's going to happen. You know, that's why you'll see me at DPW instead of at greeters. Just
Like,
I just remind myself
like-minded
of
people
DPW
choose
because I don't
like-minded
like
people.
what they do.
yeah, exactly.
Bless you.
inside out.
Thank you, that's my
I was trained by
I think-
PW vets before I ever even knew what happened.
And great question, like this is stimulating
Yeah,
awesome
thanks for
discussion.
bringing that.
Anybody else? Any
How do we
questions or?
volunteer?
I'm sorry.
How do we volunteer?
Website.
Turn the camera off.
You made it
My wife-
16 minutes 37 seconds.
Yay! Thank you for hearing my dribble.
No, that was actually really
That was,
interesting.
that was
Thank you.
That was great, actually.
Good.
much appreciated.